I think, right before a game. And I'm like, who am I spending my next 5 years with? I had just signed that deal. You had just signed the deal. But I feel like we were secure, but everything else around us was going to shit. And not in a bad way. We got GMs going to other teams. We got coaches going to other teams. We got players forcing trades. We got bringing Ben Simmons. He's back.
Nick Nurse just did something no NBA coach has done in years. He publicly called out LeBron James and Kevin Durant on live television. And it wasn't about defense or effort or even playoff losses. No, this was personal. This was about respect, because when LeBron and KD decided to mock Larry Bird during a recent podcast appearance, they had no idea the firestorm they were about to ignite. And Nick Nurse, he wasn't having any of it. What happened next shocked the entire basketball world.
Like, are you kidding me? Larry Bird in this era? Are you kidding me?
That's what be boiling my blood, but
it'd
people
been more
don't.
rough though.
For who?
For Larry.
How?
And it starts.
What you mean?
How?
Just the physical
He's
capability.
6'10", dude.
That's a lot of
240.
6'10".
Okay.
Nah, it's a lot of that.
And
That's all I'm saying. He birthed that. Don't get me wrong, he birthed it. I'm just saying we hadn't seen it
Who's
then.
going to be matched up against Larry Bird? Karl Anthony Towns.
That's a nightmare.
It all started innocently enough. Early January 2025, LeBron James and Kevin Durant sat down for what was supposed to be a casual conversation on a popular basketball podcast. You know the type. Two legends kicking back, talking hoops, sharing stories. The kind of content fans eat up. But somewhere between discussing their favorite sneakers and debating the best playoff performances, the conversation took a turn, a dangerous turn. The topic shifted to overrated legends. Now, that's already controversial territory, but when you're LeBron James and Kevin Durant, two of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball, people listen. They wanted to know who the modern superstars thought didn't deserve all the hype. And that's when Larry Bird's name came up. At first, it seemed like harmless banter. LeBron leaned back, smiled, and said something along the lines of how the game has evolved so much that some legends from the past wouldn't be able to compete in today's NBA. KD nodded, adding his own thoughts about athleticism and skill levels being completely different now. But then it got specific, real specific. They started talking about Larry Bird, not just casually mentioning him, but actively questioning his greatness. LeBron brought up the era Bird played in, suggesting the competition wasn't as fierce. KD laughed and mentioned how Bird wouldn't survive against today's wing defenders. The jokes kept coming, the smirks got wider, and with every word, they dug themselves deeper into a hole they didn't even realize they were creating. Within hours, social media exploded. Clips of the podcast were everywhere. Twitter was a battlefield. Instagram comment sections turned into war zones, and the divide was clear. Younger fans defended LeBron and KD, arguing they were just being honest. But older fans, the ones who watched Larry Bird dominate in the 80s, they were furious. Because here's the thing. Larry Bird isn't just any legend. He's Larry Legend. Three-time NBA champion, three-time MVP, one of the greatest trash talkers and competitors the game has ever seen. To many, questioning Larry Bird's greatness isn't just disrespectful, it's basketball blasphemy. But LeBron and KD didn't seem to care, or maybe they just didn't realize what they'd started.
To play against the world.
Okay.
And man, I see this guy, blonde hair, I said, all right, let me see if he can play.
Okay.
Man, I'm sitting there watching him shoot Shannon. He must have made 30 in a row all net.
So he was Steph Curry before Steph.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there saying, this dude can play.
Okay.
Because, brothers, we always say, okay, can the white dude really play?
Correct.
Let's
Right.
break down exactly what was said, because context matters here. LeBron and KD weren't just saying Bird was overrated, they were laughing about it. They made jokes about the slow pace of the 80s. They questioned whether Bird's shooting would translate to the modern three-point era. KD even said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Bird benefited from playing against plumbers and firefighters. That last line, that's where things went nuclear. Because whether they meant it literally or not, the implication was clear. Larry Bird's competition wasn't real. His championships were earned against inferior talent. His legacy was inflated. And for millions of basketball fans who grew up watching Bird go toe-to-toe with Magic Johnson, that was a slap in the face. The backlash was immediate. Former players started weighing in. Analysts on ESPN and other networks dedicated entire segments to the controversy. Magic Johnson himself posted a cryptic tweet that many interpreted as a shot at LeBron and KD. Even some current players, guys who grew up idolizing Bird, spoke out, calling the comments disrespectful and out of line. But what made this even more explosive was the generational divide it exposed. Younger fans, many of whom never saw Bird play, sided with LeBron and KD. They argued that the game has evolved, that today's athletes are more skilled, faster, stronger. They said LeBron and KD were just being realistic. Older fans saw it differently. To them, this wasn't about comparing eras. It was about respect. You don't mock legends. You don't diminish their accomplishments just because the game looks different now, and you definitely don't laugh while doing it. The debate raged for days. Sports talk shows couldn't stop discussing it. Social media timelines were flooded with Bird highlights, LeBron versus Bird comparison videos, and heated arguments about who would win in a one-on-one. It was chaos. Beautiful, messy basketball chaos. And just when it seemed like the story might start to fade, Nick Nurse walked into the conversation and dropped a bomb.
We've come to the current position now to where you have great players, LeBron, Curry, Durant, just to name a few. But it's so unfair. Well, you know what I'm going to say? This J.J. Redick, this kid here, who's a journeyman, played for 6 different teams. All his accolades came in college, played 15 years in the NBA, was being shifted around from team to team because all he could do was shoot, and he wasn't that great of a shooter.
Nick Nurse isn't known for starting drama. He's a championship-winning coach, a tactical genius, a guy who focuses on the game, not the noise. But on a cold January evening in 2025, during a routine post-game press conference, Nurse showed a side of himself the public rarely sees. It wasn't planned. A reporter asked him a seemingly innocent question about the LeBron, KD, Larry Bird controversy. Most coaches would have dodged it, given some generic answer about respecting all eras, moved on. But not Nick Nurse. Not that night. His face tightened. He leaned forward, and then he unloaded. "You want to know what I think?" Nurse started, his voice sharp. "I think it's disgraceful. Larry Bird is one of the greatest competitors this game has ever seen, and for 2 players who I have immense respect for, LeBron and Kevin, to sit there and mock him? That's not just disrespectful to Larry, that's disrespectful to the game itself." The room went silent. Reporters' eyes widened. Cameras kept rolling. This wasn't a generic coach response. This was real, raw, unfiltered. Nurse didn't stop there. He talked about Bird's work ethic, his basketball IQ, his ability to dominate games without relying on athleticism. He mentioned how Bird played through injuries that would sideline most modern players. He brought up the famous story of Bird winning the three-point contest without even taking off his warm-up jacket. Larry Bird didn't need to jump out of the gym, Nurse continued, his voice rising. He didn't need to dunk from the free throw line. He just needed to step on the court and he'd find a way to beat you. And he did, over and over again, against Magic, against everyone. So for anyone to sit there and question that, to laugh about it, that tells me they don't understand basketball history, and that's a problem. The clip went viral within minutes. News outlets picked it up immediately. Twitter exploded, again. But this time, the reaction was different, because Nick Nurse wasn't some bitter old-timer stuck in the past. He's a modern coach, a guy who won a championship in 2019, someone who understands today's game as well as anyone, and he was defending Larry Bird like his life depended on it. The basketball world didn't know how to react. On one side, you had LeBron James and Kevin Durant, two active superstars with millions of fans and massive influence. On the other, you had Nick Nurse, a respected coach who just put his reputation on the line to defend a legend from a different era. LeBron's camp stayed quiet. No tweets, no Instagram posts, no public response. Some speculated he was avoiding the controversy, letting it blow over. Others thought he might be preparing a calculated response. Either way, the silence spoke volumes. KD, true to form, did engage, but indirectly. He liked a few tweets that defended his original comments. One tweet in particular stood out. "Why can't we have honest conversations about the game without people getting sensitive?" It wasn't a direct response to Nurse, but everyone knew what it meant. The media went into overdrive. ESPN panels debated whether Nurse crossed a line by calling out active players. Fox Sports analysts argued about whether LeBron and KD had a point. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to breaking down every angle of the controversy. And then, other voices started joining in. Former players who stayed silent during the initial controversy now felt empowered to speak up. One retired All-Star tweeted, "Respect to Nick Nurse for saying what needed to be said. Some things are bigger than stats and highlights." But not everyone agreed. Some current players felt Nurse was being hypocritical, defending an era he never played in while criticizing two legends who were still actively contributing to the game. The debate expanded beyond just LeBron, KD, and Bird. It became about generational respect, about how we talk about legends, about whether honest criticism is the same as disrespect. Anonymous sources close to LeBron reportedly said he felt blindsided by Nurse's comments, especially since they'd always had a professional relationship. Others claimed KD thought the whole thing was overblown and that people were being too sensitive. But here's what made this story even more complicated. Race entered the conversation. Some argued that two black superstars were being unfairly criticized for questioning a white legend. Others countered that this had nothing to do with race. It was purely about respect for the game. The debate got messy, uncomfortable, and it showed just how deep this controversy had cut. Through it all, Nick Nurse stayed quiet. He'd said his piece, and he wasn't backing down. But here's what nobody's talking about.
This controversy exposed something bigger than just one podcast or one coach's opinion. It revealed a growing trend in modern basketball, the casual dismissal of past legends. And whether intentional or not, LeBron and KD became the face of that trend. Think about it. How many times have you heard current players suggest that legends from the 60s, 70s, and 80s couldn't compete today? How often do younger fans discredit championships won before the three-point line became dominant? There's this idea floating around that basketball only recently became real basketball, that everything before LeBron's era was just a warm-up act. And that's dangerous. Because basketball didn't start in 2003, the game has a rich, incredible history filled with players who revolutionized the sport, players who paved the way for the modern NBA, players like Larry Bird. Bird wasn't just a great shooter, he was a killer, a guy who'd look you in the eye and tell you exactly where he was going to score from, and then do it. A player who averaged 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists for his career, while playing in an era where physicality wasn't just allowed, it was encouraged. He won 3 straight MVPs. He dragged average teams to the finals through sheer will and basketball genius. Could Bird guard a modern wing like LeBron or KD? Maybe not with the same athleticism, but would he find a way to impact the game? Absolutely, because that's what legends do. They adapt, they dominate with more than just physical tools. And this is what Nick Nurse was really defending. Not just Larry Bird the player, but the principle that greatness transcends eras. That you don't diminish someone's legacy just because the game evolved. That respect should be the foundation of how we talk about basketball history. LeBron and KD crossed an unspoken line. They didn't just critique Bird's game, they mocked it, they laughed about it. And in doing so, they sent a message to younger fans that it's okay to disrespect the past as long as you're confident in the present.
Nick Nurse's response was a reminder. No, it's not okay. Not even close. So where does this leave us? As of late January 2025, LeBron and KD still haven't publicly addressed Nick Nurse's comments. They've moved on, focused on their teams, their games, their legacies. But this story isn't going away, because every time LeBron or KD makes a claim about being the greatest, someone's going to bring up this moment. Every time they talk about respect and legacy, someone's going to remind them of the Larry Bird podcast. And every time a coach or former player defends the history of the game, Nick Nurse's words will be referenced. This controversy might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but it matters. It matters because it's about more than basketball. It's about how we honor those who came before us. It's about whether we build on their foundations or tear them down to elevate ourselves. LeBron James is one of the greatest players ever. Kevin Durant is a generational talent. Nobody's denying that. But greatness doesn't give you the right to disrespect greatness. And Nick Nurse, a coach who could have easily stayed silent, decided that message needed to be heard. Will this change how players talk about legends going forward? Probably not. But it started a conversation. And sometimes, that's enough. The silent majority of NBA players watched this unfold. Many agreed with Nurse privately, but wouldn't say so publicly. Others felt conflicted, torn between supporting their peers and acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, the criticism was fair. This moment will be remembered, not because it changed the league, but because it reminded everyone that basketball is bigger than any one player, any one era, any one opinion. And Larry Bird? He probably doesn't care. He's at home, 3 championship rings on his fingers, knowing that his legacy speaks for itself. But Nick Nurse cared, and he made sure the world knew it. At the end of the day, this story is about respect. Respect for legends who built the game we love. Respect for the history that made modern basketball possible. And respect for the unwritten rules that say some lines shouldn't be crossed, even by the greatest players alive. Nick Nurse didn't have to say anything. He could have dodged the question, moved on, and avoided the controversy. But he chose to speak up. He chose to defend Larry Bird, not because Bird needed defending, but because the game deserved it. LeBron and KD are still legends. Their legacies are secure. But this moment, this will follow them. And maybe, just maybe, it'll make the next superstar think twice before mocking the giants whose shoulders they stand on. If you made it this far, you're clearly passionate about basketball, and we need more people like you in this community. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're diving deep into the stories that matter, the drama, the controversies, the moments that define the game. Drop a comment below. Do you think Nick Nurse was right to call out LeBron and KD, or should he have stayed out of it? And where does Larry Bird rank on your all-time list? Let's keep this conversation going, because basketball isn't just about what happens on the court, it's about what we say, what we believe, and how we honor the game. Subscribe, comment,